I'll be honest with you, man. I'm in no hurry to sit down and watch that one. I'm truly not. I'm a fan of Nate. I'm a fan of, Game Bread. At this point in both of their careers, I keep hearing, Masvidal talk about, I'm gonna break his bone, I'm gonna break his face, I'm gonna murder this guy. Um, you know, you're as good as your last fight.
Exactly.
Called Teddy Atlas here in Las Vegas, Nevada. You heard it from the champ himself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Richard Ortiz of The Fighter's Voice, the only voice that matters. And we're slowly knocking out the competition, just like our co-host guest tonight, making his second appearance back-to-back on The Fighter's Voice. He made the right choice. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rudy Cruz Jr. Welcome to The Fighter's Voice, Rudy.
Thank you for having me as always, man. Appreciate you.
Let's jump right into it, man. I was off completely on that pick. I had Joshua getting defeated within the 12 rounds. Joshua showed up and he flipped the script on everybody. He came to make a statement,
Brother.
made a big statement, big for boxing, and unfortunately his opponent had no answer for the right hand. Anthony Joshua was successful and back in the mix. You got to put him in the top 3 in the heavyweight division. What's your take, Rudy, on the whole matchup going in? And were you shocked of the outcome? And where do you see AJ going next?
First and foremost, not shocked. We've been in this sport
Yes.
for a long time. You've covered it. Both of us, and you never know what you're going to get once that bell goes ding. Both of us kind of. I said Anthony was going to be a bit
Yeah.
tentative.
Yeah.
I said he was going to be a little more cautious because of what we saw with Fury. No, no, we were both wrong, man. He came out there and in hindsight, he did everything he was supposed to do. The feints, the reads, watching where Francis's hands went as he threw the feints. You know, uh, you saw him downloading the information that was in front of him.
Yes.
And it didn't take
No.
long. It took what? Now he dropped him in the second, he
Dropped him
dropped him
once
once in the
in the
first,
first
right?
and then twice in the second.
So that's when he took to the southpaw
Yes.
stance. And Anthony adjusted and did exactly what you're supposed to do.
Right hand
You
lead.
step to the left, and that's what it was. But he still did throw a couple of feints out to see where Ngannou was gonna how he was gonna react to the
Exactly.
lead hand of Joshua. And when he saw that the hand coming down to try to parry the lead jab to the body, uh, Anthony read it and just came off to the side and as you're supposed to, get your head off the center and throw that straight right hand. It's perfect.
I thought Anthony Joshua initiated the whole fight. If anything, it was his opponent kind of taking a step back, kind of being hesitant, didn't really let his hands go like he did against Tyson Fury. And I thought
Hmm.
that's what we were going to see. Another boxing event, fighter moving to the side, getting off first, establishing the jab, even the right hand to the body. Anthony Joshua imposed his will, basically. The experienced, he made him look novice at times. It didn't look like the same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I didn't see the same fire and intensity as we did in the Tyson Fury fight.
And I think it's in a back to what I was saying. In the week prior, I don't think Tyson properly prepared for this fight. That's
Yeah,
in my opinion. I thought he looked at it as what some critics were saying, a
yeah.
gimmick fight, and I don't think he came to the table with all of his silverware per se. So and it showed. It showed. Can't take nothing away from
No.
Francis because he came here to do what he did.
And Gano got paid too,
But
20 million plus.
oh, cheddar,
Yes.
cheddar, man. I mean, hearing that he had to borrow 200,000 in from his
Yeah.
Nigerian brother
Yeah.
Kamaru Usman. I mean, that is just a testament to the number difference at the level. When you're at top level, on both sides of the sport, mid level, lower level, it's kind of an equal thing. I get it. But when you get to that top level on both of these sports, the numbers are completely different. Wow. I mean, his last title defense in the UFC was 600,000. He got paid 20 million. I mean, the numbers are different. And that's not to mention what if any he had any kind of stake in the pay-per-view numbers.
Exactly.
Because uh, if he had some value in that, there's a lot of people that tuned in to watch that, man. And I think both sides of the fight spectrum of the MMA and the boxing had the rise, locked into that. What was it, about 3:30,
Yeah,
4 p.m.
exactly. It was early.
our time? And dude, I was watching the undercard from the beginning of the day at my shop as it was, as I was cutting hair. I'm entertained by. I tell people, man, I watch two ants fight. I watch an ant and a spider fight. If it's entertaining, man, I'm sitting here and watching it. So even the lower undercards, I was blessed to be able to see that and see the younger talent that's to come.
Exactly. Now here's the question: where does
Mhm.
Ngannou go from here? Ngannou go from here. What's next for him? And where does AJ put himself? Should he sit back and wait for the winner of Tyson Fury?
I mean, what else is on the table? Who else do
Possibly
we
the
got here?
Deontay Wilder
I mean,
fight.
Chisora has been beat already. All these other guys. Parker,
Parker, yeah,
Parker.
yeah.
That.
You can't
Oh my
overlook
goodness,
him.
man! Parker looked great. Yeah, no, we can't overlook Parker, man. He looked good. Um, with that being said, at this point, man, it's 1, 2, and 3. You got Fury because he's the man, and then you
Yeah,
have Usyk, which I've said from the get go. I think Usyk beats all of them. We'll dive into that
he's
one
the
in a
heavyweight
minute
Lomachenko.
if we can. Yes, man. Yes,
You
yes.
could be
And
right.
then you have Joshua. Now Joshua, man, I got to give I got to pull back some words and give some respect to what I've seen his growth. Somebody else in the boxing community brought it up to my attention who has deep knowledge in the sport. He's been in it for a while, and he said, "Listen, he went on a journey, and he found the right coach. If you look at his last couple of fights, you see, and this is the beauty of it. At the level of where he's at and who he is, it's hard to kind of. A lot of fighters at that point are stone. They're not sponges any longer,
That's true.
and they don't absorb new stuff, and they take criticism very hardly. It seems as Anthony in the last year and a half, man, has and once again I feel like I'm being a bit hypocritical because of what we were giving him
Yeah.
last week. We said we were going to be tentative. He was going to be tentative, but when you talk to other wise minds of the sport and you respect their opinion, uh, a friend of mine brought it to light that, man, he has grown since he's been with this trainer. If you look at his last couple of bouts, he's against what was the guy, unfortunately, that lost to Wilder and then Joshua back to back. The Viking, the big gentleman. What
Oh,
was his name?
are we talking about No, we're not talking about Ortiz. I, that's the one common
No,
opponent of Anthony Joshua and
bald
yeah,
head.
and Deontay just blew him out the first round, I believe. Yes.
Yes. And then Joshua finished him like maybe the fifth,
Yeah.
sixth round
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
jab to the body, jab
Yes.
to the head, right hand.
He said the big Viking
Hats
guy.
off to the
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, no disrespect to him. I just don't remember
Yeah.
the guy's name. But you see in that
He
fight,
actually fought in
and
Fresno.
then in the who did
The big guy. Yes, he was the
really?
co-main event of Jamal Herring when he made his first title defense. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know that. Hey man, we learn something
Yes,
new every
sir.
day. And from the voice, you always got to hear what the voice is speaking, man. So appreciate the update on that.
Absolutely, man.
Where were we at? I'm sorry, I lost track.
Oh, that was the common opponent that they both had. But with Anthony Joshua, he's
Yes.
grown since this great fit of a trainer. And I think I'm starting to use that comparison of, you remember when Miguel Cotto reinvented himself? He got a second career after he went with Freddie Roach. Even took
I do.
Canelo the whole distance, and a lot of people thought that could have gone either way. That was a very close and tactical fight. Miguel Cotto put a good account of
Yes, sir.
himself after that. He wasn't washed goods. Freddie saw something in him, and he was able to make a second run in his career. And sometimes that
Hmm.
transition with getting another trainer, it gives you that whole belief, and it gives you that set of sail on that other wave, man, and gets you through your career and and beyond and above. And I think it's a good fit for him.
I do. I same here, man. I agree. When you see, especially at this deep in his career, because he's what 32 fights in
Yes,
now.
yes.
Yeah, he's
Yep.
somewhere around there,
23
right?
defeat,
When you
28
have
knockout.
that
Yeah.
many, yes, when you have that many, when you have that much experience, and he took a gold medal, am I
Yes,
correct?
yes.
When you've been through that level of coaching competitiveness, it's hard to absorb and listen to other trainers. So hats off to him, man. And I respect and
I do
appreciate
too.
that. And this kind of comes into like what you were telling me about last week. You asked me a question about if I went into boxing, if I was able to get big
Yeah,
name
it's
and go on
yeah, if
out
you
there.
recall, to their camp.
One of the things that I was not able to fit on into our conversation was that you a lot of fighters choose to stick with the coach that they're with from the amateurs all the way into the top depths of it. Sometimes later in their career they will switch to a name like a Virgil Hill or a Freddie Roach or a Garcia, Robert
Yeah.
Garcia, or a Joel Diaz. One of these big name coaches searching for a change for the better for them. But I mean, uh, my mind is blown, man, with some of these things. Because it's just you just never know what you're gonna get.
I mean, Oscar De La Hoya, he made several changes throughout his career. He had Robert Alcazar forever since the amateurs, made a decision
Yes,
to move on from Gil Clancy to Emmanuel Stewart to, as you know, Mayweather. And he's had several cornermen in his
yes,
corner.
sir.
And I can see the fact that, okay, maybe I'm searching for that. Maybe I'm searching for the perfect wave. But a lot of times it's okay to receive from other people. But plain and simple, if you're not receiving it, it's time to move on if you don't feel comfortable. But I think you
True,
would recognize that
true,
during the training or when you're asked to see who you are once your back's against the ropes, so to speak, as a trainer. It's like a cut man. They'll never excel until their fighter, unfortunately, is cut. So until your fighter's in a predicament, how do you as a coach see the adjustment and get your client, which is your pupil, able to learn and receive your adjustment that you're spitting out?
true. And you know how boxing is. It's a deep rooted, deep. Like you stick with the people that brought
Yes.
you up. And as you said, that changes along the second half of professional's career. But in the beginning of it, it's the coach that they stuck with from the very
Yes.
beginning. And stepping back into the boxing side of it, which I would love to do 100%. It would be the unfortunate part about that is I would be looked at as, hey man, you just worked with these MMA guys, look at the names, But I've been in boxing. My father had 47 professional boxing matches,
I didn't know.
so I was born into it. Yeah, man, my dad fought Sugar Ray Seals, which was one of the good old school guys. He fought Roy Jones' dad. Man, he was a sparring partner for Marvin Hagler. The guy has been around.
Your dad got some stories
He
to
put it.
tell. Hey, you
He
got his
does. He
picture up
actually
in
does, man.
your barber shop?
Yes, yes. I do have one up of my father. It's he's southpaw. He's in the
Okay.
left-handed stance. He actually has a couple of pictures with oh my goodness. There's a statue of this gentleman in front of the Sound
Yes.
Arena. Uh,
Corbett,
young
something
Corbett the
Corbett?
third.
Corbett. There we
Young
go.
Corbett. Young Corbett the
Yes.
third. And the similarities is that they were both left-handed. So the bringing them, they were both from the
Yeah.
Valley area and they represented it, and that's where. But my dad, um, he got recognized as being from Stockton because that's where he was. He fought out
I
of that
can.
area a lot more than he did here. But he was from Fresno. So it's just you. What are you gonna do when a promoter says, "Hey, man, you're this is what we're labeling you as because you have, this is where your fans are coming from right now." So it is what it is, and you got to follow the
I
lead.
think that's just a title. of MMA striking coach. I mean, you already broke down several boxing stand up, and yeah, it's just a matter of that opportunity and being recognized as such.
And I do understand the difference. In mixed martial arts, you're not able to get off 6, 7 shots in a row. You're 2, 3 at max before something's happening that disrupts the rhythm of the flow of what you got going on with your hands. In boxing, there is 2, 3, 2, slip, dip underneath, uppercut, hook, right, slip, double jab, right hand, hook, shoulder roll, shoulder roll, shoulder roll, uppercut, right hand. There's a lot more that you get to cook with. So and I do appreciate the few that are experienced enough for me to work with them like that every once in a while. But the mixed martial artists, but I do remind them this is a different it's a different you got caldo de res and you got caldo de pollo.
Yeah,
They're both
yeah,
soups.
yeah.
You know what I mean, man? But they're two different flavors and two different ingredients that go into it. So but once again, I would love to get my hands on it. And Mark Castro, shout out to Mark, and shout out to his
Tony.
father. I've known Tony. I've known Tony for 32 years, man, maybe 30 years from boxing. Watched him. I watched him be the pupil of these coaches that were holding pads and that were the OGs for work with Hector Lizarraga and the Angel Hernandez's and all these local guys that we had here at this time. And he just kind of stayed quiet, was always humble, and to see them where they're at, today, and seeing Mark getting ready to go 12-0. Shout out to Mark Castro, to see where he's going to be able to go and I'm excited, man. We had Joey Lopez. We had a few other guys here in the Valley that were representing and putting the Fresno flag on the
Madman
back, the
Marcos
559 on the
Hernandez,
back.
he signed with PBC. And he got a
Marcos
big deal.
Hernandez, yes. Shout out to Marcos and
Yeah,
his dad
yeah,
Joey. Those
yeah.
are great people. I'm his barber. I was his barber for many years. So before when his son was still a kid, man, I was cutting his hair in 2012, man, 2008. It's been a blessing to be around these people for so long.
And to see him represent, Tulsa's own Daniel Valdivia, who was also on that show. I believe it was. I'm not sure if it was called Contender, what have you. It was with oh gosh, I know some of the trainers. Freddie Roach was one of the trainers, and so was I want to say
Okay.
Muhammad, or no, I'm not too sure his last name, but gosh, what's the light heavyweight, undefeated light heavyweight? My guy here. No, no, no,
Bivol?
no, 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 no.
No,
He
not even.
retired undefeated. First time.
Are
Yeah,
we
I'm
talking
looking
about?
at his book
Okay,
right
okay.
now, and I can't even get
It's a
it.
pass
Shout
fight.
out to Andre Ward.
Come on, brother.
Hey, shout out to Andre Ward, the best
The
book out there.
man.
If you have not
The
ever read a
man.
book and you want to read into the boxing inside and outside of the ring, pick this book up right here, and
Andre
Andre
Ward's a
Ward will
guy.
tell it like it is. But yeah, Andre Ward
Hey,
was
man.
kind
Hey,
of mentoring him as well.
can I drop something? Like you said
Absolutely,
last week, I don't usually shoot jabs, man, but I got to
go
shoot one
for it. I
this
want to hear
time.
it.
ESPN dropped the ball on letting go of Andre
I'm
Ward.
right there with you.
And if the man hears this, man, your knowledge is appreciated, and I hope some which way, shape, or form you get back on a network because you're respected, and your word was valuable, man. These youngsters
Yeah,
need to hear it. I think maybe that was unfortunately that may have been one of the reasons you were not offered back because opinions resonate, and sometimes some people don't like the way it resonates, but he was always speaking the truth.
he was one of many that would think before he would speak. His words were very much thought out, um, and very educational. He
I
knew how to
agree.
handle himself behind the microphone as he did behind the ring, and I mean inside of the ring. And yes, I'm going to make sure I tag him, and
Hmm.
I'm going to get a response out of him because every once in a while we'll chit chat. If I throw 3 messages out there, I'll get one or two. But no, definitely. But
Oh
he's
man.
down to earth, and yes, he's definitely missed behind the microphone. That's a no brainer.
Oh, definitely. I'm a fan of
Really,
him and Tim Bradley. I like Tim Bradley's
he
raw.
is.
He's a little more raw than Andre. Andre's a little more smooth and finesse. He doesn't cut
No,
corners. But I think Tim Bradley's just a little more raw with his delivery. But ESPN does a great job. I love watching their shows, and they have some great people on there. But
Don't
man,
forget about Mark Kriegel. Mark Kriegel, the
oh,
GOAT,
Kriegel. Oh man,
one of the best in history.
you can't. One of the
Yes,
best. Yes. But you know what I do miss? You know what I do miss? I miss HBO
I knew you were going
Boxing
to say
After
that.
Dark.
Jim Lampley. Yep, yep,
You knew I was
yep.
going there, huh?
Exactly.
Oh, Lampley. Oh, Lampley, and you know Letterman, Harold Letter.
Yes,
all the what do you got?
Larry Merchant,
19.
all of them. Yes.
What I got is 39, 34. Blah
Oh
blah
yeah.
blah. Whoever it
He was real
was, it was
animated about
always
all of
great
them.
to animated, and it was that's a genre that I'm pretty sure like my dad and some of these other guys feel the same way about the crews that were doing it in the
Yeah.
80s. The 90s and the 2000 late 90s and 2000s, man, was Lampley, Foreman, Roy
Sugar Ray
Jones.
Leonard.
Those
I
dudes
mean,
were
he
all
was a great commentator too.
Leonard. Yeah.
Hey, remember Sugar Ray? But every time he watched the fight, he'd always say, "As my fight with Marvin Hagler." And the time I top Tommy, he'd always give reference to his own fights all the time. But that was good. You knew that was coming, just like the Howard
Oh,
Cosell accent.
but yeah, you got it. You got to
Yes,
respect it.
absolutely.
You got to as you did Cosell. Cosell had
Bernie
the whole
Pacheco.
delivery, the way he the fight
Yes,
doctor. Come on,
yes.
man. This is history, brother. We're talking. This is history here, and man. To watch that era slowly go away, I mean, it's sad. And I remember Lampley, about 2 years ago. I think he was going to take a deal with one of these promotions. I think Snoop Dogg
Yes,
was on
yes.
one
And
of
he
these.
opted
Do
out at
you
the last
remember it?
minute.
What was that called?
It was a Triller.
Yes. Um,
Triller. Yes.
yes. And I think Triller at that time, um, don't get me wrong. I respect everybody's habits of what they
I
do, how they
know
relax,
exactly
how
where
they
you're
enjoy
going.
themselves. But a sport is a sport,
Make
and
sure when you
if this is
commentate, you're sober.
we're yes, man, the live action smoking, and all the hoopla, and it just was too much. Um, it was too much for me. I appreciate the old voices that we had and we heard and that we grew up with, and who we have, and to see that, man, I was thinking, man, it's going in a direction that I don't
Yeah.
want to go. And even
If
today,
you saw that, then he sure in the hell
I
saw
think,
that too.
oh, for sure,
Who
for
do you like
sure.
today behind the microphone? Commentating.
I go back to Tim.
Tim. Do you remember
I go back to
do you
Tim
remember during
Bradley.
COVID, Tim on live TV, he had a hot dog and a tortilla? Do you remember that? Because
I didn't
yeah, he
remember
did.
seeing
And on
that.
live TV, he's eating it. And I was going to go and counter and say, I got the Timothy Bradley challenge because I was going to go on there with a hot link, but it just never happened. And he kept it 100, man.
Man, I think is his
Yeah,
wife
yeah, she's
Latina?
Mexicano.
I
Yeah, I think
believe
her name's
so, bro. I
Teresa,
mean,
I
come
believe.
on, man. Did you? I mean, come on. We all grew
Oh
up
yeah.
eating that. I mean that wasn't. Come on, man. We all grew up poor,
Yep.
man, and that was one of the easy, fast little. For me, I started adapting and putting some
Oh
mustard on
yeah,
top of things. You know
absolutely.
what I mean? In the long run, man. So it was something that's a good cheap meal, man. That I don't. Every once in a while, I can't lie, man. I'll go back to it. I go back to it every once in a
Absolutely.
while, but
Hey, I'm not afraid of it.
you gotta stick to your
I'm not
roots.
afraid of it.
You gotta stick to your roots. Yeah, me neither, man.
I will say this. I like Sergio Mora. I like Ray Flores. Um, who else? Nonito
I like
Donaire.
I
I
like Ray
mean,
Flores
he's
too.
going
I'm
to be our
sorry.
guest later on in the show. He's done some commentating and he's
Really?
been able to knock it out the park. And there's some guys that I feel comfortable with. And I'm going to be honest, Rudy. I'm thinking like, where did they get this guy from? I mean, it's okay to
Yeah.
read the book and be book smart, but you got to go get some blood, sweat, and tears in the gym and know exactly, put the notes down. The notes is safety net, but start letting it flow. And you could tell the commentators who
Yes,
have
I
been in
agree.
there, and you don't have to be an ex-boxer to know the detail, but you got to know when to come in and when to submit to a fighter who has been in there and swap punches. So, even George Foreman, I like Foreman only because he understood the fighter.
Yeah. Yeah. You know who comes to mind when you mention that, man? Is Raul Marquez.
Raul Marquez too. exactly.
Raul Marquez. Shout out
Yeah.
to Raul, man. I mean, well, that's a guy who, I mean, how many times have we seen that guy cut
Oh yeah, his tissue. He still has
over the years?
tissue.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, come on,
Southpaw.
man. He was like Arturo Gotti. Yeah, man.
His son's
Yeah, you
fighting
know,
now.
I
Son's
mean,
doing fairly
it,
well. Yeah.
really, really, I
Yes.
didn't know that. How is he? What style
Professional.
is he?
You see somewhat like of his dad's, but more of a defensive fighter. He slips more punches than his dad did, of course. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Something that when we're talking about some older fighters, man, it was brought up the other day. My wife has always been a fan of, and I put this on because my father came over the other day, and I put on some old school fights like I was talking about the other week, and I put on Gotti and Wilson
Oh
Rodriguez.
yes. They were supposed to run it back, and they never did.
Woo!
Yes.
Really, really,
Yes.
I
That
didn't
was a
know
great
that.
fight.
Oh man, Wilson was putting
Yes.
hands on him in boxing
Yes. That
early.
was I remember
Early,
that.
man. Oh, and it's sad of how we lost him,
Yeah.
how his family lost him. I won't get into details and all that. It's just to have a life cut short the way it was, and for anybody, it's not it's a very sad situation. But that was one of the guys who threw a lot of entertainment out there, man, for the years, and I had fought. That was when Gotti and when Arturo Gotti and Floyd fought. That was June
Yeah.
5th.
That was the perfect matchup for Floyd.
Was it June 5th or June 4th?
I don't have the exact date on that. I just remember
Or was it
Gotti
a
walked in
July?
with the Soprano song. I remember that.
I remember that. I remember that's because I fought maybe 2 days before that at the Orleans in
Okay.
Vegas. And the big hype was not anything that had to do with me. It was all on Floyd, and man, I just remember being there and watching because I stayed. I stayed there after the fight. My goodness, man, that probably got to be if people don't remember Pretty Boy. Go
Yeah.
back and watch some of those
Yeah.
fights, man. That was a
Yes.
monster. That was the Corrales
Yes.
fight. That was a monster. That guy went out there and
He initiated.
the thudding. It sounded like bass drums and kick drums. When he was hitting God to the body, I was 6, 7 rows back. You can feel the kick drum, like the bass and the
808.
force of it. And oh my goodness, man, like the body, head, post body, uppercut. I mean, my goodness, Floyd brought out the butcher knives that night,
He did.
man, and he really showed that he was ready to go to the next level that night. And there was the beauty of the HBO countdown that they used to do. They produce it so well. I've been with Undisputed in the UFC and how they
Yeah.
put it together and how they do. And they do a great job. But I think the countdown was just a little more in depth. Fred at the end of Floyd's career, the Guerreros and the Bertos and I stopped being as entertained as I was early because I knew what
Yeah.
was coming.
A boxing lesson, staying
So
away, and just less risk, and even when he
yes, high
overwhelmed
reward, less
Marquez,
risk.
just on the size, but you got to see the
Yes.
size difference there.
hmm Back to what you were
Yeah.
saying last week. Marquez didn't look
Yeah.
as in his prime that
He
day.
did on that
Yeah.
last one with Manny.
Oh, the last
Yeah.
Pacquiao did. Yeah, you were completely right. But when you have situations like that, man, and just to be able to see these things roll out the way they do, it's like it's a thing of beauty and it's a thing of ugliness at the same time.
I agree. I remember I used to watch Turtle's brother, Joe Gotti, fight. Joe Gotti, he got stopped in the second round by Terry Norris. And I'll tell you a quick story. We were in Las Vegas and we were talking to Joe Gotti,
Ooh,
and I remember this skinny kid comes up to him. I thought he was Chinese. But after later on, we found out that was Arturo Gotti because he had the slanted eyes. But Joe Gotti was the one they were trying to get to that next level and so forth. And I remember asking, joking with Joe Gotti, I said, because we had just got done talking to Julian Jackson, the Hawk. And I said, would you ever spar him? And he goes, hey, man, I want to keep my teeth. And usually fighters go, oh, yeah, I'll get in there. But he said, no, man, I want to keep my teeth because of the power Julian, the Hawk Jackson would bring to the table. But just some old Vegas stories, I would say. And one thing I do want to add on, one person that stood with his amateur trainer and is very successful today, and I've always said trainers need to make up their mind. They're either a trainer or a manager. So the only one that's able to do this is Eddie Reynoso with Canelo. It stood with him for all the way up and is a great manager, and they sit back together and there's chemistry together. So those are few.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work, but that right there is a very selective few.
Man, you're right. And it's just the trust. And you see it over the years, the trust and respect. You have guys like Ryan who stepped into the camp and then ended up, eventually leaving. I think Ryan, it's a whole different situation. If we have time, and I would love to get into that one. But, Canelo, you see it with the team that he's had, he's kept. Even after the first loss with Floyd, they all stayed together. Nobody pointed fingers and said, hey, it's you to blame, it's you to blame, it's you to blame, it's you to blame. It was a growth, and I think the whole camp grew together. And there's beauty and ugliness, just to what we just said. And, the beauty of it is they did trust within each other to come back to the drawing board together. And it continue to put a new game plan together, for every fight that they've had. And back to what we were saying, you don't get that very often because people look, when you lose, you're looking for a scapegoat.
Someone to blame.
You're looking for why it didn't go the way I needed it to go. And I didn't see that with him, and blessings to them, man. They've stayed true to each other, like you said, from the beginning. I remember when, Canelo fought Cotto's brother.
Yes. I remember watching that, and I'm eating, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this guy's.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
exactly.
Oh,
because I didn't know he would be exactly where he is today. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I knew he was the one they were prepping and getting ready for that next level.
Yeah, got him with that nice hook, man. And Canelo's hand was just a bit low on the right side, and he was throwing an uppercut as Cotto was coming with a hook. And it just, that's why hand placement is important. And he rocked him, and Canelo handled it well. He took 5, 6, 7 other shots after that. But if you look at his feet as he was stepping over, if you're walking to your left, it's left foot, then the right foot. He went right foot, left foot a few times because he was off of his balance was completely thrown.
Ringing.
So, I mean, that
muscle memory took over and show what he's made of. And as I say, the rest is history.
Yeah, he went and did his thing, man. He went and did his thing. And the loss to Floyd was more of an L. It turned into a learning.
I agree.
Because he grew. Folds over into where he is today. And I would like to see the Benavidez in fights. The fights that we want as fight fans. I don't remember who it was. I read today. Somebody was saying, how much more does he have to prove to you? That he's the guy. Well, do we consider him the face of boxing? If you're the face, you need to face every challenger that's a worthy opponent. And represent to the fullest, man. It's not always the easiest, because Canelo is what is he, 33?
I want to say 34.
Man, he started his pro career, 15, 16 years old.
Yep.
That's years, man. Those are miles on the tires and the engine. He hasn't taken the most damage in the last 10 years, the last 3 years, 2 years. Bivol
I was about to say possibly the Bivol fight because he was at the end of some of those punches, but he knew. That just. I'd say he stepped up in a division where he didn't belong at the time. It had nothing to do, and I don't agree with the game plan, but I'm not taking anything away from Bivol. Canelo might have said different things, but it is what it is. He's rebounded since then, but everybody wants to see that Benavidez fight.
Yes, I mean, Minguia is satisfactory for me. It is. It's a satisfactory matchup. Um, Full fulfillment, I would have rather seen the other one.
Yeah.
But when you have paved the roads and dug the trenches that Canelo has, I think, you kind of have the right to face who you feel like facing at the end of your career, the same way that Floyd did. What I don't like personally is when I hear Canelo saying, "Who have you fought? What champions have you beat? And the thing is like how many more? And you got a shot at one time. Canelo looked at you. I mean, I'm sorry, Mayweather looked at you and gave you the shot. And maybe it's time for you to give these guys a shot. If he, because he complained about who have you beat? Who are you? Who have you beat? Then he fights John Ryder, who a lot of people who aren't in the boxing world and are familiar who have never heard
Another
of.
European fighter.
So exactly, it was real hard to sell. Even though he came out and punched Canelo in the face a whole lot and did it, decent, the hype and the buildup wasn't there. And back to what I was saying, because I never fully was able to complete this when we were talking about HBO, the buildup for the fights. What they would do is they would take say for instance Barber talk. Oh man, got Robert Guerrero versus Floyd Mayweather. Oh man, I'm not watching that. I'm not gonna order that, man. I don't spend my money on that. 5 weeks later, 4 weeks, 3 weeks later, it's the same thing. Now we got a week, 2 weeks before the fight. Now the week before the fight. Now the week of the fight, the whole energy has changed. Man, you know what, man? I think this guy might be able the guy to do it. And that was all based on how they good guy, bad guy the situation. They put, hats off to Robert Guerrero and his family. His wife had cancer. She went through the struggles, and Robert stayed there. He did everything that he needed to do, and they sold that part of it. And then on the other half, they sold Floyd being at the clubs, the nightclubs, and spending money and opening strip clubs, and doing everything he was doing on his business side. So it looked like good guy, bad guy. And then they were showing the highlights and the knockouts of Guerrero, of Robert, and everybody he had been in there with. And at the end of the week, man, you start thinking, man, this dude might be able to
Pull
do
it
it.
off.
And come Friday night and Saturday morning, at the barbershop, and everybody's like, hey, this, pura raza, this guy's gonna do it. This guy's gonna pull it off. And I'm all for. In the sport of boxing, I don't go with my raza, per se. I hate to say that. Don't get me wrong. I go with the knowledge of what I know of the sport. So I don't call it based on
Don't listen to your heart, man.
favoritism. Yes, man. I go with what the knowledge of in the history of the sport has taught me over the years.
And that's the way to go. And that's how you separate yourself, Rudy. That's a difference between a professional and a fan, or someone that's just tunnel vision on one person, or one ethnic, or one person's per se. Okay, he's Mexican, so I'm going to root for him. When I was I used to write for the paper stories, and everybody assumed that I was gonna interview every fighter, Mexicano, or I was gonna pull for the Mexicano. I did when it was there. It was there, and yes, of course. I mean, Chavez until there was no more in his prime. But I didn't always see these fighters as the elite fighters. It's okay to root for him. Like I would say, Ryan Garcia, I'm going for him, but that may not mean he's gonna win. I got to give the edge to Devin Haney. And that's just what that is. It has nothing to do with my culture. It's just people just assumed. So if you look at our guests, they're African-American, they're Australian, they're Filipinos, they're whoever wants to talk boxing. I don't care what color or dimension you are. Hey, you're always invited to the platform. But I know exactly what you're talking about,
sir.
Especially the barbershop talk.
Yeah, man, it gets flowing. It gets flowing. Everybody has their opinion, and you get a lot of people who have knowledge, and you get a lot of people who don't necessarily have knowledge. And I respect both views, as long as like we said, as long as we got eyes, that
Yeah.
are tuning on in and benefiting to the sport, man, I'm all with it, man. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and sometimes I gotta bite my tongue and just let everybody, say what they say. But everybody knows what I
Yeah.
do, and 80% of my clients know my history. So, you know, it's the 20% that come in and have a different opinion. I have my clients looking at me, looking for my response, and just like, hey, man, everybody's entitled to their own, man. Hey, you're right. Sure, you're right, buddy. But if you want to bet, if you want to make a little wager on this, let me know, man. Because I'm willing to go that route, man. But if your knowledge goes your way, man, so be it, man. The fight game, as we said, is unpredictable, and I could be wrong in any instant, as we were last week.
Especially in, to credit to us, anything can happen in the heavyweight division. You got big boys loading up.
Yes, you do, man. Yes, you do, man. So, hey, can I
Sure.
ask you a question?
Sure.
You a question? Okay, so we got about 5 or 6 good weeks of
Yes.
boxing lined up. We got a lot coming up around the corner, man. Who are you the most excited to see in the next
I'm
six
gonna
weeks?
be partial on this one right here. I can't wait. April 27th, Jose Ramirez returns to Fresno. And also on the undercard, you got Virgil Ortiz. It's gonna happen. Golden Boy
Mm-hmm.
Productions. First time in Fresno. No, second time. They collaborated one time with ESPN when Oscar made an appearance when they were at Sound Arena. Um, but I'm looking forward to the return of Jose Ramirez. And Virgil Ortiz, he
Oh
needs
man,
those
me
rounds
too.
in. And that's gonna be my question when I talk to him about getting those rounds in there. But you can't blame him when he has, hands of steel right now.
Yes, sir. I mean, if you can put somebody away in a minute and a half, man, put them away. Um, I think the real killers of the sport, the guys who want to take care of business, go in there and get the rounds in the old school ways. I don't take away from this. I believe rounds
Very
are
important.
important. You do need to get them in. But if there's an opening, if somebody gives you an
Thank you.
opportunity to finish it, man, do it when you
Yep.
can, because it's so unpredictable. I mean, we've seen over the years somebody dropped and somebody
Yep.
get right back up and put the next guy to sleep in the next
I agree
20,
with
30
you.
seconds. It's unforgiving, man. So go in there and when the opportunity presents itself to you, don't back off from it. Go full force.
I agree with you. I'm actually looking forward to Isaac Cruz, to see what he does and how he's able to adapt to Rolly. And what Rolly are we going to see? Are we going to see the Rolly who was very successful against Tank Davis, or the Rolly that just sits back and looks awkward, off balance, and you're saying to yourself, what is this guy doing here? And then next thing you know, leading up to getting caught, Tank Davis, he put a great account of himself, and he matched his power with
He
speed
did.
and ring generalship and smarts. And I think here's my thing. Davis, in my opinion, is the smartest fighter in the ring today. He sets traps. He doesn't get enough credit for his ring IQ.
Hmm.
And I also a close second, I have to say, Devin Haney.
Devin Haney. Hey, man, Devin Haney's nutritionist is somebody that I've worked with in the past. He's a great human being, man. Great guy. I was talking to him just the other day, man. James Lockhart, and he knows what he's doing. Great human being, as I was saying, man. And I've seen Devin pretty heavy in between his camps. When it comes down to it, in the last 4 or 5 fights that
Yeah,
Haney's had, he's looked really good, and
strong.
I see what he's feeding him. We follow each other, and shouts out to the guy, man. He knows what he's doing. The science of these new generational,
Yes,
nutritionists, man. They get you the right way, so that way you don't see the old school mentality of 6 to 8 weeks of wearing
I was
a
about to say the
bodysuit,
plastic
a
suit from
sweatsuit.
Big Five.
Yeah, dude.
And then you got to
Yeah,
tape it because
man.
it'll
That's
rip.
just
Before they made the good ones, you would have to tape it because they'll rip.
every time, every time. And the thing is you wear those, but you drink a half gallon to a gallon of water when you're done, and you're just putting back in what you took out while your body's
Because when you
suffering.
take those things off, you're
So
lightheaded. You don't even know. You're actually you can pass out in the shower.
I've seen it. I've seen it, man. And you literally overheat. And it's a good thing that this new era of nutrition is coming in. Instead of like starving yourself, eat
Yeah.
an apple a day, and then going in or try to make weight, and like your eyes look like they're in the back of your head, and they're black underneath, and man,
I've
it's
seen
sad.
fighters like that.
I
I'm sure you have
remember.
too. Once they hit that scale, I'm like, my
Oh
gosh.
man, oh my goodness, I remember. I don't remember what year, maybe 90, 89, 90. At Caesar's Palace, one of my older brothers fought on the undercard of, I don't remember who the main event was, man, but it was either Rafael or Gabriel
The
Ruelas
Raphael brothers, yeah. No,
that
the Morales brothers, yes.
that fought.
Yep.
Yes, the Ruelas brothers. Jimmy Garcia was the man's name. Do you remember this day, this tragic day I'm bringing up, where one of the Ruelas brothers'
Yes,
opponents died in
yes,
the ring?
exactly. After the Dooku Kim, after
I
the
believe it
Dooku
was
Kim, Ray Mancini stuff.
after the
For a
Dooku
while,
Kim. Yeah, this
he
was
was
years.
hesitant on
Yeah,
fighting. It
he
happened to
Ray.
Gabriel. Raphael was the taller, slender one.
It was
It happened to
Gabriel.
Gabriel. Yeah,
Yes,
his opponent
it
passed
was
away.
Gabriel. Yes, yes, and I was there. I was in the audience, and it was, man. It's unfortunate, man. But I mean, Jimmy, from what I'm understanding, weighed 168. 3 weeks before the fight, he got the
Oh
fight
man,
on short notice. He took it, and he weighed 130 the night of the fight, or the day, the day of the weigh-ins, and that's 38 pounds, man, and that's a third of your body weight. And he went in there and took a good licking, and unfortunately, man, didn't make it
yeah,
out of it. So this sport is
not about that.
it's unforgiving. Yeah, man. I mean, this, as we talked about last week. You can
Yeah,
die. You can die in here, and there's certain people that over the years that I chose not to work with. I won't mention any names. Because of there's things that I saw. And one of my Daniel, I'll be honest with you. After he lost to John via the head kick, um, the next fight going into the camp, I told him, I said, "Hey, listen, man, I'm going to be looking for stuff." And he asked me, "What are you looking for?" I said, "I need to see your ability for being able to take one, and how you react to taking it if you do. Because if I see that you're not right, man, I'm going to suggest to pull out. Maybe not everybody else on the management side with the other,
yeah,
coaches might not feel this way, man, but I don't want to be a part of this if I don't see you reacting the same way you did before." And thank God, we didn't have any leftovers from, what happened at that moment, and we were able to keep going. But I'm very adamant at safety and health first. When I do say my prayers for my fighters before they engage in battle, the last thing I ask is that both of them are able to go home and see their families at the end of
man,
the night. Because this is not something that is light for the
yeah.
heart, man. These are two grown men and/or women going to battle, and putting it all out there.
And leading up to it, how well did you prepare your car for the race? The oil change, the spark plugs, everything going into it. You yourself know, first of all,
Very
on
important.
performance wise, if you took shortcuts, but what did you put in your body? How did you eliminate the things that
Hmm.
didn't need to be in your
Hmm.
body? Did you rush it? What was it? Did you wing off it, so to speak? And there's a lot of things
100%.
going in, as you know, and there's a lot of things that I probably won't bring up right now, but behind the scenes that take place. And some people, Rudy, as you know, they'll turn away from it. I've worked with promoters where
They
I
do.
called the fighter and said, "This guy needs an opponent. It's a great opportunity," only to hear the promoter talking to the guys in the back saying, "Okay, this guy's this." And I said, "Hey, I didn't bring him over here for this to happen." And he told me, he goes, "Welcome to MMA." And I'm like, I'm good, bro. I went and talked to this guy, thought it would be an opportunity. Unfortunately, for the promoter, it didn't happen because the guy got wind of it and said, "No, I'm not gonna, no." So what he did is he slammed,
Man,
true story, slammed two Red Bulls. So when they're giving him a physical, they said, "No, I can't let you in there because, you know,
he
yeah,
didn't
exactly,
pass because his heart rate was
exactly,
too high. Man, I've been asked over the years, how come you don't go into managing and/or promoting? I said, well, I have and it's no disrespect to
Mhm.
anybody, in any which way, shape, or form, but I have a morality level that's inside of me because of what I've been through as a fighter and as a coach, and certain things in life. I think the morality hat is taken off a lot when you put the promoter hat on or the manager hat, because you're seeking You're
The
seeking
show must
business
go on.
at that moment, and you're
That's
not
the
seeking.
mindset.
Yes, I mean, you know what goes. You know what reminds me of that when you say that is when one of the Hart brothers died during WrestleMania or
Yes.
SummerSlam. I forgot what
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. Owen
Long
Hart
time
on
ago.
that.
And
They practiced over and over
Owen
again
Hart,
that
rest in
drop.
peace, Owen. Yes, when he
Yeah.
fell off of the cable that was carrying him down to the ring, and the show went on. And the value of life to me is more important than the show. That's why I don't qualify to be the manager, the promoter, the matchmaker. Because I've seen more, especially in boxing, I've seen what matchmakers do. They'll take the 42-year-old dude and throw him in there with a 19-year-old Olympian. And we see what happens at the end of it. Um, I was at one point in Vegas. If I can tell the
Yeah.
story, if you don't mind. Um, um, when I showed up to fight, when I showed up to weigh in, um, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. When I showed up for the square off and just the media meetings, I fought in the left-handed stance. So my opponent and his coach at that moment were like, "Hey, we didn't know he was southpaw. We're out. We're out of here. We're leaving." And Jimmy Montoya, have you
Yes.
ever heard that name before? Jimmy Montoya, Guilty Boxing. One of the promoters I worked with, at one time, he was putting on the show, and he gave a good speech of like, if this is your path and how you're gonna go, and because somebody has left-handed or right-handed or one hand or no hands, and you're gonna pull out, this isn't for you. Yep, yep. Jimmy came to get me from my room for the weigh-ins, and Jimmy used to work with my father back in the day, promoting, managing. So I asked him. I said, "Hey, who do you have for me? Who is this?" He says, "Don't worry. If you fight anything like your dad, you're gonna be okay." So we went down there, and the guy was getting straight out of work. He had his work
Oh.
boots on. Man, he came with a lunch pail and a hard hat. He took his clothes, his stuff off, and he weighed in. And he was 42, 43 years old, and I stopped him in the second round on cuts the next night. It was he was a bald guy, and at the after the fights, I went to go talk to him after the fight was over. I went to his dressing room to first off thank him and make sure that he was okay. Thanking him because I needed the money, and checking on him to make sure he was okay because I
Yeah.
had stopped him. So when I knock on the door, his trainer opens the door and I says, "Hey man, how's he doing?" He says, "Oh, he's okay." I said, "All right, can I come on in and talk to him?" He says, "Yeah." So I walk on in. And as I'm walking in, his he's like in the corner of the room, and I see him and we lock eyes, and he gives me the nod, like it's okay, come on in. And he has a little girl, his what I'm now I know was his daughter, maybe 4 years old, 3 years old, and she's on his shoulder, and I walk up to him to shake his hand, and his as we're shaking hands, his daughter turns and she looks at me, and man, she gave me the it broke my heart because she looked at me like I was a monster, and she told me, "Don't hurt my daddy, don't hurt my daddy," and she grabbed his
Yeah.
hand and she held him, and dude, it broke my heart, man. This was just a little girl wanting for her father not to be hurt anymore, and it's obvious that she was there at the fight. I didn't know at the time, and but it broke my heart,
That's a
man,
tough cookie
because
to swallow,
he
man.
tried to tell her it's okay, it's okay, dude, it is, man, and that's at any level of it. I've seen it at the highest and at my lowest level of it, man, and dude, it's not hard to look at and not hard to see and or hear, but it's part of the sport, and that's going back to what we said. Unfortunate in lower levels of boxing, you get the
Yeah.
19-year-old that's fighting the 42-year-old, man. So that was a journey. That was part of my journey that I went on.
And unless you're the older Roberto Duran who took these young cats to school, but
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, that's one of the
yeah,
great greats. We don't get a chance to have all the great greats like that. Real quick, man, I was gonna ask you something. We were talking last week, and you asked me something about the coaching venture, and if I would you flat out asked me. You said, "Hey, what if Jake
Yeah.
Paul gave you a call?" And I gave my response, and my response stays the same. But the next day, the next morning, when we both woke up, we were looking at something that had just
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
broke.
exactly.
The Jake Paul versus
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, and um, I got my mixed feelings about it. And I'm not sure exactly what the rule sets are. From what I'm hearing, they're both pulling for a fully sanctioned professional bout. I've heard there's going to be 18-ounce gloves with headgear at the same time. So
And a
I don't know
tag
how
team?
it's going
What's
to
up with that
happen,
tag
man. But
team thing?
a tag team, you
Yeah,
heard that one
him and his
too?
brother.
So, oh my God, against
Yeah,
Mike alone?
yeah. He could take a break and tag his brother, and his brother can come in.
Oh my God, bro, this is the first time
Yeah,
I've heard of this.
yeah. That's what
What?
I've been
I
hearing.
mean, come on, man. I did. This definitely is not, the Marcus the Queensberry rules. The Queensberry rules, man. Come on, man. Like, what do we have in front of us here? I mean, and Mike is going to be a part of it, I
Well,
guess,
I
huh?
mean,
I mean,
I guess he figures I'll just get
that
this
blows
guy
my
out of
mind.
here, and we shall see what happens.
I mean,
We definitely got to
that's
touch up on that one because there's a lot of details. I want to get all the rules in place, and then we got to talk about the do's and the don'ts. And also, I was going to bring
oh,
up,
for
but we'll talk
sure.
about it on the next time that you're on. I want to talk about running it
Yes,
back in the
sir.
boxing ring, Nate Diaz and Masvidal. I mean, hey, in California, it's taking place. It's supposed to take place June 1st, I believe,
Yeah.
and I want to get your take on that as well. Um,
I'll be honest with you, man. I'm in no hurry to sit down and watch that one. I'm truly not. I'm a fan of Nate. I'm a fan of Game Bread. At this point in both of their careers, I keep hearing Masvidal talk about, I'm gonna break his over the bone, I'm gonna break his face, I'm gonna murder this guy. Um, you know, you're as good as your last fight.
exactly.
And we've seen on both sides, unfortunately, where they've been at. Entertainment wise, I think Diaz is more entertaining.
Because
He
of the
plays
following, I
around, he
agree.
jokes, he sells it. But Masvidal, um, I don't know, man. The whole Scarface, I'm gonna bless you or
Yeah,
baptize you. The whole thing, it's ran its course. And like we said, man, I mean, for entertainment value, I don't. I'm not in a hurry to sit down and, hey, man, hey, you want to come over and watch this? It's just, it doesn't sit with me as well as I would like, as well as the Tyson and
yeah.
Jake fight, man. So
I'm more excited just to see
I'm I
Tyson back
I,
in
I
the ring and walk into the ring itself. And, I don't know about the 18-ounce gloves and, take away your advantage and what have you. But, it is what it is. And we're not going to be able to stop entertainment and people from making money and being
you're right.
inventive, inventing themselves. But,
hmm You're right.
yeah. Listen, I want you to give a shout out real quick before we go. Where is your barbershop located and where can we go to get the
Oh
finest cuts?
man.
And is it located in Fresno?
Yes, sir. I
Yes.
appreciate that. I'm at 4843 East Kings Canyon, Fresno, California. I've been there for quite some time, man. 17 years. I've been blessed to, be a part of the community and see kids that were 3 years old 17 years ago, and they're 20, 21, 22 years old, and they have kids of their own, and now they're bringing their children to me. So I've been blessed to be a part of that community for a while. It's the hood. I love where I'm at, and I love the people. So yeah, man, it's a blessing. It's a
It
blessing.
really is. Yeah, you're a blessed man. Your knowledge for the sport is a blessing. And once again, how do we stay in touch with you on Instagram and Twitter if you do have both those accounts?
Oh man, at Slick Boxer, SLIKBXR. Um, um, that's what I do, man. Cut hair and teach people to try to be as good mentor, to try to be a good person in life and a champion in the cage or ring if possible.
Listen, man, once again, I got to have you back. I got to have you back. I'm going to give you 2 weeks, man, because we're going to break all this down. We have enough time to break down the Masvidal fight and also the Mike Tyson fights. We're going to eliminate the rules and we'll say what really could happen. Now, we're going to adjust to their rules and then see where we're at. So we'll be in contact. And hey, man, Rudy, it's always a great time having you on the show. It feels good to someone that is so knowledgeable about the sport. And I really didn't know all your brothers fought, but that's another story. And your dad. I want to give your dad's,
Yeah,
some props right
yeah.
there. That's why I asked you. You got his picture in the in the barbershop, and you said you did. I'm gonna have to stop by there and just get some quotes off you while you're cutting hair. You know, I won't get them as we're getting a haircut and
Oh
just
man, I would
pop the
love that.
camera on there and get some good YouTube content, brother.
I would love that, my man. I like I said, man, I'm a boxing historian, and I ask a lot of people that say they have their knowledge in boxing. Ali was 56-5. You know, do you know the five? A lot of people don't know
Let
the
me see.
five.
Okay, we got.
Let's get him.
Okay,
Come
we'll
on, let's
back
get it.
up.
Let's get it. Let's
Okay,
get
no,
it.
this last one was a draw to Trevor Burbick. I want to say, okay, let's start from the first one. Joe Frazier. Okay, Leon Spinks. Did Kenny Norton finally beat him or never was awarded?
Ken Norton beat him.
Yes,
Kenny
yes.
Norton beat him.
What? No, okay. Actually,
Yeah,
Norton should have won all 3 fights, especially the one in
I
Yankee
believe
Stadium.
so, bro. And people don't know that. I believe so. I'm a huge Ali fan, but I believe
Okay,
so.
gosh. Okay, no, I got to get this before we go. Oh, okay. Michael Spinks, and he didn't lose to God, who's the guy with the big hands? Ernie Shavers. No, not Shavers, but that was a good fight. And I'm not going to Google it. Hell no, I don't do that stuff. No. I hate when people go, okay, now it's this. No. Okay, Frazier. Man, and see, I'm going to kick myself because I already know these.
Come on, brother. I know you know it.
These, man.
It's just a mental block
right
at a
there.
moment. I'll give you one more.
Yeah.
Can I give you one?
Yeah.
Larry Holmes.
Oh yeah. See, I don't even count that one, but yes, you're.
We don't like.
That's a good one right there because Mike Tyson avenged that one. See, I really don't even count that one because I went way back and I said Trevor Burbick because he fought after that fight and got the draw with Trevor Burbick and Larry Holmes. That was a cold one. That was right in front of my face. That shouldn't even count.
The Larry Holmes one,
exactly.
Man. A lot of people forget that one, man. A lot of people forget that one, man.
I'm drawing a blank right now, and I know all these. I'm just overthinking them.
Brother, I mean, we'll get back to it.
Okay, and I promise you I'm not going to Google it. It's just, I'm going to text you at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, Rudy, it was this. I will, brother, as soon as I get off the show. You know it. But you got me on that one that I overlooked. I can't believe it. Larry Holmes was right in front of me. The Eastern Assassin.
Brother,
ain't no stopping us now.
Eastern Assassin.
Yep. Yeah.
The flick of the
white
jab,
pony
shoes.
The
slick jab, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. And he did walk up to Mike Tyson did walk up to Ali in the corner before that fight while he was in the ring, and he said, "This one's for you." Yeah, man. I love the sport as we talk along. I'm pretty sure you are appreciating the love. I hope you.
Hey, you made me laugh like no other on the show. I'll tell you that.
I appreciate that.
You brought up the good one right here.
I appreciate that. We have good vibes, man. Good talks.
Absolutely. In that part, I am going to tag Ward about that, so I'll make sure that he listens to it and gets back to us on that. And I've been trying to get him on the show, but I got to go through the publicist. Me and the publicists are cool now because what I did is I had her on the show and she flipped the script on everything. So that's a whole different story and strategically how we do things. But she's very knowledgeable about the sport. She goes out there and watches them in the Olympics. So she's just not saying I'll represent you. She knows exactly how to approach the fighter, and that's knowledge, and that's an art form as well. And
yes, sir.
Rick Morrigan, but that's a whole different testament right there. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our guests, our co-host guest today, Rudy Cruz Jr. We'll have him back on the show. And as always, it's a wrap. Thumbs up for Richie.
Thumbs up always.
Sir, thank you.
Okay, fight fans, it's not goodbye, but until next week. Remember, it's always voiceography at its finest. So on behalf of Richard Ortiz, the special guests, and all the crew, saying hasta luego, babies. And always, thanks for listening.